morning, everyone. I like to stand up sometimes and just welcome to this first meeting of the year. We as a team of commissioners and our county attorney are just delighted that you're here, that you will participate in county government, and we look forward to your ideas and your input. Got a special treat this morning. An old friend, Jason Chandler, I'm the old one, since he was in middle school with my kids, and now he is the worship leader at Westridge Church and blesses me every time I'm there. And he has his friend, Mary Beth Benson, with him, and they're going to just kind of open our meeting before I actually call it to order with a song called Beautiful Things. So let's enjoy that together.
If I'll ever find my way, I wonder if my life could really change at all. All this earth, could all that is lost ever be found? Could a garden come up from this ground at all? 'Cause you make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things, beautiful things out of us. All around, hope is springing up from this old ground. Out of chaos, life is being found.
new. And we've got a new board composition, we've got a new year, we've got a new day, we've got new opportunities that are going to come our way during this year. And Jason, Mary Beth, thank you so much for starting off our year in that fashion. Appreciate you being here so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
And now I will officially call the meeting to order, and thank you all for being here again. We have Miss Melanie Dallas here who will speak to us shortly, and we have several elected officials. Sheriff Gullidge always guards the door back there, and y'all help me out here.
Kim Cup.
We have Kim Cobb from the school board. Thank you for being here, Kim. And I guess that takes care of it. Very glad y'all are here. I'd like you to turn off your cell phones, please. And Officer Daniels, you have the list. Take that. Thanks, sir. Now it's another privilege for invocation and pledge to bring up my pastor of 19 and a half years, and also Vernon's pastor, and has been Todd's family pastor in the past. And Pastor Brian Bloy has really been something in my life that I could not even explain. I wanted to say one thing from his Christmas Eve service message. We hear so many great sermons revolving around the shepherds, just excitement about the birth of Jesus, about the wise men, about there not being any room in the inn and things like that. But on Christmas Eve this year, Brian brought a message from Revelations on opportunity and on overcoming, that Jesus as King allows us to overcome. So that meant a lot to me, Brian, and it was a little out of the ordinary. It's online, westridge.com, so plenty of time to watch it if you want to go watch that about overcoming. So thank you for being here, Brian.
Let's pray together. Father, we're thankful for a new year. It's not only a new year, but it's a new day. And we're reminded, Lord, in Daniel chapter 2, where Lord Daniel writes that he changes times and seasons, he disposes kings, and raises up others. And he gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. And Father, we're mindful here today that you are, Lord, the God of times, the God of seasons. Lord, that you are the one who puts people into place, removes people as well. But Lord, you also promise wisdom and discernment and knowledge for those who seek you. And I thank you for the men and the ladies who make up, Lord, the government of our county. It truly is, Lord, not just a new year, but it's a new day for our county. And I pray for Tony, for Vernon. I pray for Todd, for Ron, and for Dave. Lord, as they lead our county, I pray that as we move forward, that these men will put the best of our county in front of them, the interest of others, Lord, the people of Paulding County, in front of anything that may be on their agenda. I ask, Lord, that you would bring unity to this team like we've never seen before in the history of our county. Father, I thank you for the tone that's already been set here, the song that's been sung, Lord, just recognizing you as the one who makes beautiful things beautiful. Lord, you are the God of our seasons. You're the God of our affairs, and Lord, you're the God of our county, and we just thank you for that. And we pray as these men and as these ladies make decisions here today, that you would bring unity like we've never seen before, bring discernment and wisdom that these men don't have on their own, and we'll give you all the praise and all the glory for it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Brian, so much. Jason, Mary Beth again. The December 13th, 2016 work session minutes and the regular board meeting minutes are available for your review. We have, under the announcements, under the theme that Jody Martin brought us, Positively Paulding, a a short video that was initiated by our first responders in the county, and it's called Community. So let's enjoy that for a few minutes. So again, it's my understanding that first responders would have put that together to verify that how they all work together and how they work together with the people also. The Board of Commissioners would like to reaffirm all the appointed department heads, and I'd like to include in that our county attorney, Television and Cable, and Lonnie, who's on the panel with us every month, and thank them for their continued dedication and service Paulding County, not only on the front table here, but some are scattered around the room, and some are in their places of work. But we appreciate y'all so much and appreciate your service to the county, and just want to reaffirm that. And now, I'd like to ask Commissioner Crow from Post 4 to give us an update on Paulding Forest. There's been a great development out there, and I wanted him to share that with you.
Yeah, we're excited this morning. The state has given us another 890 acres, and this will bring us up with a total of 26,000 acres out there. This land will eventually all be opened up for hiking, biking, fishing, and the Silver Common Trail runs through the middle of this. Part of this is on one side of 278 and part on the other side of 278. But we're really blessed to have the state do this for us. We're looking forward in the future to possibly developing some of that into trails and different things. So it's a way to start the year off. The state's give us another 890 acres, and we're excited about in the future being able to use this.
Thank you, Tony. I mentioned Miss Melanie Dallas. It's a great name for our county, isn't it? Who is the Chief Executive Officer of Highland Rivers Community Services Board. And one of our consent items has a Paulding County that's going to be on that board, but I've asked Ms. Dallas to come and update us on their service to Paulding County, and also going to talk about Bandy Thing.
Thank you, Chairman Carmichael and members of the Commission. Let me first tell you just a little bit about Highland Rivers. A lot of folks, I think of us in the particular community that we serve, but don't realize exactly how large our agency is. As a community service board, we are established in the official code of Georgia as what they call a public corporation, which is a public nonprofit, an instrumentality of the state. So about 40% of our revenue comes through the governor's budget each year and is appropriated through the General Assembly and the Department of Behavioral Health. Highland Rivers, we cover 12 counties in this northwest Georgia area. Of course, Paulding is one of those. And we serve about 16,000 individuals a year with mental health, intellectual developmental disabilities, and substance abuse issues. We have about 700 staff within our agency and an annual revenue of about $47 million. So we are the largest community service board in the state of Georgia, of which there are 26 community service boards in Georgia. As an instrumentality of the state and a public nonprofit, a public corporation, we are governed by a governing board whose members are appointed by the county commissioners of each community that we serve. And that is, of course, the reason I'm here today is for your consideration of Mr. Todd Van de Zandy to our board. The term that he would fill began July 1st, 2016, and was vacated as of June 30th of 2016. And so we've had that board position open and have been really looking for a board member who had an interest. And so I've left you some information there to kind of look at, just a very brief information. I didn't want to overwhelm you with a lot. It tells you a little bit about what we do and a little bit about that status in the official code of Georgia and as a board. Our board members, we have the largest board of any community service board. We have 16 members within our board. And it is a governing and fiduciary board. It does not get into operations. That's really my role. But that board is who has the responsibility of managing me and making sure that we keep the agency on track. So Mr. Van de Zandy, for that reason, we like to have board members who have an interest in either mental health, substance abuse, or intellectual developmental disabilities. The role really of the board is for Paulding County to work with me as the CEO to maintain the interests of Paulding County and to help us develop the whatever services are needed here and to just help me keep the finger on the pulse. With having 12 counties and a lot of employees in a pretty large area that we cover, it's helpful to have a board member who can kind of maintain the interests of Paulding County within our agency. Specifically for Paulding County, we have a outpatient office here. We also provide a lot of community-based services, traditional kind of core outpatient, traditional kind of mental health services, substance abuse services. The two issues, though, that I think we really address in Paulding County that are very innovative, much more so than some of our other communities that we work with, is that we've been working in the jails for about 2 years now. And that's actually, Paulding County really led the way to do that. There's several counties in which we serve that are following that lead and are very interested to try to reduce the number of individuals who are in the jails who actually have mental health issues and to try to get them engaged more in treatment rather than incarceration. The other thing we've really grown in Paulding County, when I came to Highland Rivers a little over 4 years ago, I think we served a very small percentage of veterans. I think the population we serve is about maybe 50. We've grown that to close to 700 veterans that we serve, and a large percentage of those come from Paulding County. So that's of critical importance to us, and we've had some amazing programs that we've been able to provide for veterans here, particularly in this county, in Paulding County. So I'm happy to take any questions that you might have, but again, the reason I'm here is for your consideration and appointment of Todd Van de Zandy, who has expressed an interest in becoming a member of our board to the Paulding County seat for Highland Rivers Health Board member. Our board chair is actually Alan Wigington. So,
You're headquartered in Rome?
We do have our largest footprint is probably in Rome, but our actual corporate office is in Dalton. Because we cover such a large area, I actually don't have an office. I really kind of work out of my car, and I just go to each one of our clinics. I really like to be present and sort of known with all of our employees. So I just pretty much kind of travel around from clinic to clinic to make sure I keep in touch with our staff and employees. So I don't have an office.
Sleeping bag in your car.
Well, on days like last week, yes.
Any questions? Thank you, Melanie, for being here.
Thank you, and thank you for your consideration.
We have two bid awards. The first is discuss action to approve the sale of surplus property to the highest bidder, Piedmont Residential, in the amount of $2,450,000 for 29.318 acres of tracts 1, 2, and 3 of the proposed Phase 2 Stonewood Creek subdivision on the south side of the Seven Hills connector. And we have Ms. Pollard to give us more information on this particular bid item.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was a little concerned how I was going to keep up the positiveness of this. But if you read the item and it's a sale and we're getting the highest bidder, it's just money coming in, not going out. There you go. This is some property that we had purchased when we constructed Seven Hills Boulevard. It's now that roadway is open to the public and we don't need this property any longer. So the process for this is for us to declare it surplus, which is on the consent agenda to do that. It's just over 39 acres, and we have advertised for 4 weeks. We have 2 potential bidders, and we are recommending award to the highest bidder in the amount of $2,450,000. And that is in excess of what we have in it. So that's good. Unless you have any questions, Scott's got more details if you want to get into that.
Well, you can stay there and we'll bring up number 2, discuss action to award the Sunnyland Industrial Park sanitary sewer line to the lowest responsible bidder, Wade Coots Company, in the amount not to exceed $263,495. Ms. Ashmore, may want to join you there or stay where you are?
We're going to talk about the bid just a little bit, and then she'll give you the specifics on the project, if that's okay. This one maybe isn't quite as positive, but it's business related and adding sewer. We have 9 participants in potential sewer line and Sunnyland development. As you will recall, Economic Development went out for a grant. They received the federal grant in an amount of $127,000. It was a 50% match, so that's 63 and some change federal money, 63 and some change local money. Economic Development agreed to pay that $63,000 for the project to meet the match. That grant was handled a little while back, and we're going to administer that grant. But this is the construction of the project, so it's 2,300 foot of linear foot of sewer outfall line. Again, we had 9 potential bidders. The bids range from $233,495 to $549,580. Staff has been through the bids, and they believe that the low bid is a good bid to Wade Coots Company Incorporated. And this has been seen by the Water Sewer Advisory Board and recommended for approval.
Want to add to that, Lori?
Just to note that the Sunnyland Industrial Sewer will go down Poe Crossing to Dallas Millworks and then serve the first couple of properties along Rosedale Drive.
Any questions on that bid award?
I think both of those are very positive. I know the board we had a few years ago worked on the first one, and thank you for what, I appreciate what they did. And the second one here has been worked on by a lot of folks for a long time, so I think it's very positive. I know Mr. Collette's excited about it, and good time.
Thank you, ladies. We have no reports from committees or departments. Public participants on the agenda items. We have Ms. Kathy Helms. Kathy, would you like to come forward?
Good morning.
Morning.
This is regarding agenda items number 5 and number 6. The resolution 1701, of which you put a copy of mission statement out for everybody to see. I think this is phenomenal. I was a little surprised when I got online and started looking for a mission statement for the Board of Commissioners, and I didn't see one, so I don't think one exists. So I think the concept is a phenomenal concept, and I'd like to see this happen. But I do have some thoughts on its contents. I agree that it's time that they have a published mission statement. I'm also excited to see that in your first meeting as chairman, Mr. Carmichael, you make an attempt to unify this board in a way that hasn't been done in several years. Thank you. It's also my understanding that you solicited feedback from the post-commissioners for this resolution, and I appreciate that as well. Thank you. I think it's a great start of things. But I also believe that citizen input is critical for ongoing communication and unification. With that said, I would like to ask you to table a vote on this until your next meeting in order to give citizens an opportunity to read over it and address their commissioners for their input as to what they might like to see too. So if we really want to unify the community, I think we need to involve citizens as well. So, and on number 6, the checkpoint. I understand the concept and why that was put in place. I think for a lot of people, especially our elderly and people that are coming in to get their tags, to have to undress and get on the elevators are there, they're putting on belts and shoes. And I'm not sure who designed and put the placement of where the offices are in this building, but I would think that the tag office and the tax office is probably the most visited, and it's in the furthest place in this whole building for people to come to. So I do believe that it's a bit of an overkill, but I understand the tax commissioner does have some issues and some problems that he wants. I think that any citizen should be able to walk into this Board of Commissioner meeting and be able to sit down and observe and see these meetings. So I think, probably dismantling that is not a bad idea. Maybe you can work through it and do something a little different to satisfy the tax department. But I just think that it's a little much to be in this building for anybody that walks in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
The consent agenda, we have 4 consent agenda items. Number 1, appoint Todd Van Zandy to the Highland River Community Service Board for 3 years, ending December 31st, 2019. 2, approve the budget amendment to transfer $30,000 from DOT to the detention center. Number 3, approve the budget amendment to increase economic development funding in the amount of $135,921 to a total funding of $265,921. Number 4, declare tracks 1, 2, and 3, portions of the proposed Phase 2 Stonewood Creek subdivision located at the south side of Seven Hills Connector as surplus. The land is located in land lots 538, 539, 542, 543, 544 of the 3rd District, 3rd Section, Albany County. Would any of the commissioners like to move any of the consent items to regular business?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move consent agenda item number 3 to the regular agenda.
Commissioner can move it.
So Commissioner Collette would have us move number 3 to the regular session. Any others? We have no old business today, new business. Mr. Scott Green, the Director of DOT, is going to give us an update on 2 things. The first being traffic improvements in the North Paulding area, and the second, a very recent weekend of snow and ice event that we've been through. Scott?
Thank you. I did want to provide you an update on the North Paulding agreement. We had worked on the school district back a couple of years ago. they did sort of a historical thing. They offered us $1 million to help solve traffic problems at the North Paulding campus, which is our most congested campus and fastest growing campus. We have about 6,000 cars a day that go in that campus each day using Bob Brogan Road. We initiated a slate of projects. I think most of y'all are aware of those. Those have been in place. Most have been in place over the last couple of years, starting even before the agreement was approved. Most recently, we have completed a traffic signal, and currently the school district is completing an awning system in the drop-off area for the high school. We had made changes to the drop-off zone, and it has greatly improved the traffic flow. And another tweak to that is to provide more covered areas so the students actually are standing under cover if it's raining or if it's bright sunshine, where they have less distance to travel. So we're actually getting down to the students we can load per few seconds, or reduce the time it takes to load each car. And we're seeing that benefit, and we'll see more benefit once that last piece is in place. This completes the slate of projects, except for one project that was proposed to add an additional lane coming in. We currently have effectively 4 lanes on that road. We are already a little bit past the budget of what we were planning to spend, $1 million. We're at about $1.3 million. So we were recommended to defer that extra lane coming in until a little bit later date. And we'll see how that goes. I think it's more important that we turn our attention now to Harmony Grove Church Road and some of the neighboring or feeding streets in that area. We've had a lot of concerns with Harmony Grove over the years, with all the traffic coming from the Seven Hills Bentwater area. We've done several improvements, but there's still a lot more improvements we can make in that area. I'd be glad to address any questions you have. If you have feedback from the citizens or yourself, I'd be glad to hear it.
You have a couple hours?
Yeah. I would say overall, the feedback from the citizens and the drivers and the teachers and the school district has been very good at each step of the way. And we've been out there observing it. We're still perfecting the timing out there, so if anybody sees anything out of place, amiss, trying to move that many people in just a half hour, 45 minutes during the crunch time is always a challenge. We'll be glad to continue to try to improve that situation.
How much of the $1 million have we used?
We used the full amount of the $1 million that the school board provided, and then we put in, I think, about $300,000 to this point of county money, and that included the county road serving the school and the traffic light at Harmony Grove Church Road. Thank you. Also, you asked me to give you an update on the snow and ice operations. We are still under operations. It'll be 96 hours as of 4 o'clock today. We've been continuously treating our roads. We've had back-to-back 12-hour shifts with averaging about 20 staff per shift. Typically, we're running 4 to 5 snow and ice spreader and plow combinations at any moment. But I want to comment a little bit on the process. There's been a lot of prep that has gone into these operations. The EMA staff, led by Chief Belfry, they do the coordination. They have brought us to briefings with GEMA, the National Weather Service, and brought in all of our local partners. And that has been key to avoiding situations like we had a few years ago with the Carmageddon in Atlanta. I think we got that right this time. People heeded the warnings. We got people out of town well ahead. We didn't have any major issues with clogged roadways and stranded students, where we turned it into a human rescue operation instead of a snow and ice operation. We didn't have to deal with that so much. So the cooperation was key on this, and I appreciate Sheriff's Office staff, our EMA staff for coordinating all that. That kept calls to a minimum. They kept the roads free for emergency responders for the most part. Also, I appreciate all the communication and cooperation with our citizens. I know a lot of people were planning to hold services on Sunday as usual. They canceled a lot of those. That really did us a lot of good. Where we did get problems, where I think more of the problems were Saturday and Sunday, when people were getting antsy and wanted to get out of the house. They get out there and you'd have a road 80% clear, and then you come around the curve into the shadows, and all of a sudden it's a sheet of ice. And I think it's reasonable to expect people don't know how to drive on ice in the south. It's such a rare event. When they do see it, I think some do slam on the brakes and spin out and put their car in the ditch. Most of those were single vehicle accidents because of that. Although all that coordination and cooperation went great, unfortunately we did have a lot of ice accumulation early on and very cold teens and 20 temperatures where the salt really is not that effective. We need the sun, we need traffic, and we need a little bit warmer temperatures than low 20s before the salt is effective. So we put out a lot of material. I think we were probably twice as prepared as far as our resources. We've acquired more spreaders and salt and ice equipment over the years. We have doubled our stockpiles. We have built 3 satellite storage areas around the county where we're able to load quicker without coming all the way back to headquarters. All of that did help put out more material. I can't think of any time we were anywhere close to putting out the amount of material we did on this event, so I think that was great. Unfortunately, the ice was just so tough. It was polished. It would get soft, it would melt some, and then it would refreeze during the night, and then we were back at square one in a lot of areas. So we continue that effort around the clock, even through today, such to the point that a lot of our back roads still were not safe for bus traffic, particularly to operate school today. I appreciate the school system closing today as well. We still have some citizens that cannot get out of their driveways if they're off on a shady, steep driveway, or if they're in a neighborhood that has a really steep shaded area. And even some of our connecting roads still have a lot of dangerous icy conditions. So that still will be a continued effort. Just some of the data, we used 2,100 gallons of fuel. We patrolled, scraped, or escorted other vehicles for 9,900 miles. We put out 8,000 pounds of calcium chloride. We used over 32,000 pounds of salt and about 1 million pounds of sand. And that is about half of our stockpile. So we are already starting to replenish. That was probably, that in alone, that one event was probably more than we ever put out in an entire year with 2 or 3 events. So fortunately, we were in good shape going into it, and we still have half of our reserves, almost a year's supply, still in our stock yards, in our salt bins. We have 1 spreader down presently and 1 backhoe down. We're working to get those back in service. Most importantly, we had no personnel involved in crashes and no injuries. And that's amazing considering how slick it is and the type of equipment they're working around and loading and unloading and changing blades and using heavy equipment. That is very amazing, so I'm most proud of that. Bring everyone home safe at the end of every shift. When this is completely over, I'd be glad to provide a more thorough report and go over lessons learned. We'll need to do a debrief with the EMA and our own staff to see what we can do different, particularly for these ice events that are most challenging, and as well as discuss with you additional resources or methods we might want to try to budget for in the future. I appreciate continued learning and feedback on that. Any questions?
I think y'all did a great job.
Good job. Thank you.
You left out a couple of statistics. There were no deaths, right, in the entire county?
As far as, yes, the EMA, the citizens, the crashes were down quite a bit from prior events. My experience sitting in the EOC, the sheriff may want to comment on that, but I'm not aware, compared to other counties, I think we were very good as far as crashes and injuries, no deaths involved, and I didn't really hear about any injuries. So I think overall the citizens were fairly well safe, other than being trapped. It was a very good event.
Yeah, statistic. I think you had 10 hours of sleep in the last 120 hours.
For many of us, now we did insist everybody go home and try to sleep, but for those working the night shift, that's problematic. They start on the night shift after going home and trying to take a quick nap. It just doesn't work out. So they were very tired during the 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. And that's what makes the fact that we didn't have injuries amazing, because they were working on so little. But anyway, we fared fairly well. But again, I appreciate any feedback on what we can do to improve the situation. Thank you.
Well, we as a board are very grateful, and Sheriff Gullidge and other first responders and other people Well, Friday at 11 o'clock, all the department heads came together, and as a new chairman, it was very edifying to me to see how they would integrate and just become one big team. Although I couldn't get out of my truck all weekend, I had to stay in, I sure enjoyed watching the staff and all the other county employees work together. Thank you again.
Well, the plan was for you not to get out of your driveway. That was the plan. So Scott, see what you can do so we can have school tomorrow. We're back home with our kids.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll stay there, Scott, for 2 items here. Discuss action to authorize the chairman to enter into a contract with Pond and Company in the amount of $149,684 for engineering design services for the State Route 101 at State Route 120 intersection improvement project.
Thank you. We are ramping up the design efforts under our next SPLOST already, even though the SPLOST hasn't actually begun. We do have some remaining SPLOST money that we can start the design effort for projects that will be completed into the next SPLOST. One of the early projects we've identified is a intersection project at Rose's Store, if you're familiar with that area on the west side of the county. And it is proposed presently for a roundabout. So I'm happy to bring another roundabout to post 2. Sorry, Vernon. I know you wanted the next one.
Thank you, Scott.
It is an intersection that has a good bit of backup. Some people might think the best solution would be a standard traffic light there, but generally what that does is it increases speeds, it increases the type of, or worsens the type of injuries you would have in a crash situation. And we believe that a roundabout will handle the volume at this location for many years in the future. So that is what we're proposing. So if you feel otherwise, now's a good time to speak up. But we are recommending this project. We have selected Pond and Company and have reviewed a number of different proposals and talked to different engineering firms, and we like what we see with Pond and Company, and we recommend working with them. This is a new firm for us, other than some of our experience with them on state projects. And we'd like to recommend you approve this contract.
Any questions?
Thank you.
New business number 2, discuss action to authorize a professional services agreement. Sorry, I turned this off. Number 2, discuss action to authorize a professional services agreement with Atkins North American Incorporated for construction engineering and inspection services for a period of 2 years.
Okay, we have used consultant services to supplement staff almost continuously for the last 10 years, if not a little bit more. Typically, we select consultant inspectors when we need to address a spike in work or when we feel like we need a different expertise level to help us with our construction activities. In this case, the inspector or the project manager we want to hire through Atkins is the same manager we used on Billford Parkway, the recent widening we opened. He's an excellent professional individual, very organized and very dedicated, and lives in this county. And in order to best address our ongoing staffing needs, we'd like to hire this man, Kurt Martin, to work on our new bridge projects that are coming up. That would allow us to take care of one of our major projects and use staff to handle a host of other projects that are coming up where we need to be more flexible and be able to move staff around quickly. We can handle that better with in-house staff. We also presently have 2 inspector positions that we have not filled. It's problematic to try to fill those and put them on a job with major responsibilities right away. So we need to continue to train from within and work people up to that level. But this will, I think, give us the best approach moving forward. And we have great experience with Atkins and this individual, Kurt Martin. So we'd like to continue this contract for another 18 months to 2 years for this project coming up. Also, it is very good to have him close at hand until we completely finalize Billford Parkway. That project has wound down, we've opened it, but as you can imagine, there's a lot of cleanup work, closeout work, punch work, what we call it, and record keeping that has to be finalized. And to have him out of pocket and do that with in-house involves more effort of staff and time and paperwork and administration, where we can do double duty if we have them on board, continue forward. So we recommend approving that contract. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. New business number 3, discuss action on an increase in the residential tap fees to $1,550 for a 3/4 inch tap and $1,750 for a 1 inch tap to cover our construction of installation. The Water and Sewer Advisory Board recommends this increase in the residential tap fees. Ms. Ashmore?
Thank you, Chairman. Our current cost of installation has risen. Our residential tap fees have not been adjusted in a period about from 5 to 10 years ago. Was the last time that those costs have adjusted. And like anything in our lives, our costs have continued to increase. Currently, our cost of installation on a 3/4 inch for a 3/4 inch meter is $1,512 on average. That's an average of a short side and a long side service. So the short side service, when I refer to a short side service, it's when the meter gets set on the same side of the road that the water main is on. The long side service is where that service line actually crosses the road. On the 1 inch meter, our average cost of installation is currently $1,699. With our current tap fees, you'll see the deficit. The tap fee cost is set to recover the cost of that installation, but currently our 3/4 inch tap fee is $950, and our 1 inch tap fee is $1,050. There are some other additional fees that are charged to connect to the water system, and our increased costs have now eaten the additional fees that are charged in addition to the base tap fee. We did a connection fee comparison, and to really take a look at what others are charging for connecting to water systems. And what we found was you couldn't compare tap fee to tap fee. So we looked at the cost of any of the fees that were charged, with the exception of any kind of application fee or a deposit. And you'll see that right now our connection fees, which are our tap fee and our line maintenance fee, is really in the middle of the communities that we surveyed, and significantly less than most of the communities surrounding us, with Cobb, Douglas, and Bartow. We're recommending an increase to cover our cost of installation to $1,550 and $1,750 respectively for the 3/4 and 1 inch tap fees, raising our total cost of connection to $2,025 for a 3/4 inch meter and $2,225 for a 1 inch meter. This was taken to our Water and Sewer Advisory Board in December, and they recommended that these fees be increased to cover our costs. Are there any questions?
Lori, that covers the cost only, is that correct?
That's correct. It's just the cost of installation. Materials have gone up, the cost of meters have gone up, as well as then the cost of installation has been going up.
I would like to just say that the Water Sewer Advisory Board, it wasn't just one meeting they worked on this. We went through quite a bit of conversation through, I think, about 4 or 5 months. It's been talked about before, but several meetings that they brought things and talked about it, and they tabled it, and they weighed it, and did some more research. So I'd like to thank them, because they spent a lot of time. It was not those meetings were not 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour. They were several hours that they were in those meetings each time. So I'd like to thank them for their work that they did.
They have been exceptionally busy, and item number 4 regards their activity also. Discuss action to approve the Paulding County Water Extension Policy dated December 19, 2016.
Thank you. Yes, and this policy was a culmination of a lot of hours of work, conversations with our Water and Sewer Advisory Board members, as well as the post commissioners, and we really appreciate all the input that was brought to the table to propose this policy today. Paulding County has about 150 miles of roads without water service on it today. And so one of the things that we were working on is how do we put a mechanism in place to provide water to these unserviced but existing developed areas. And so that's really the purpose of this policy, as well as to then establish the conditions under which we will construct a water line extension. What we're doing is addressing water extensions serving residences, churches, and nonprofit properties that aren't in our capital improvement program. So this isn't these aren't our transmission mains. This isn't the Mount Tabor pressure zone kind of improvement if that's needed for system. It is specifically to extend water to residences and churches that don't have public water today, and you'll see later, and maybe having issues with their current service. It's not the intent of this policy to extend water to undeveloped land for the purposes of development. Developers are required to extend water as part of their development activity. And the funds for this are subject to the allocation of funding in our capital improvement program for extensions. And we also put in any other funding sources should they become available. We continue to look for other opportunities to bring funding to the county for these water line extensions. So the general terms of the policy are to create extensions where they're economically feasible, to make sure they're in accordance with both the state and local requirements. They're for extensions that are located within either Georgia DOT or Paulding DOT right-of-way. And they're for petitions for extension that are the responsibility of the property owners desiring service. This is for people coming to us desiring water service. So our minimum requirement proposed in the policy is that 70% of the owners of the properties commit to establish and maintain water service. Then Paulding Water would review the cost and the viability. We would recommend approval, denial, and the priority of that petition to the Water and Sewer Advisory Board based on 2 criteria. One is benefit to the water system. So, for example, a water line extension with 10 customers in 1,000 feet is more beneficial to water systems than one or 2 customers in that 1,000 feet. The other, though, and one of the points of discussion that we've had is to also give consideration to the status of the wells serving the individual properties, so that people who are having issues with their wells, those extensions would rise higher in that priority list. And we are having those. We've had several folks who are contacting us because they're having to make choices about what they do within their homes when it comes to using water. Do I take a shower? Do I wash clothes? It's something most of us take for granted in our homes, that the water's there when we need it. And we have many people who, at this point, do not have that luxury. What's the property owner requirement? Well, property owners would be required to install their service line from the right-of-way to the structure. Any extension that would be done by the system would be the end of it would be where the meter is set. And this is just the same as we do now when we set a meter. We set it at the edge of the right-of-way, and then the property owner is responsible for the connection to their home. And then connection fees would be required to be paid prior to construction beginning. We do have existing petitions. And that was a great deal of discussion about what do we do with some of these petitions, some of which date back to the 80s. And so for the petitions that are on record at the time the policy is adopted, we will make contact with the property owners along that extension to determine current interest and need, and see if they're still interested in an extension. And then we will use that updated information to recommend the priority on those petitions. Just included a map to show you the current extensions that we have are really primarily in posts 2 and 4. Is where we have people who have been on our extension list. Some of them for 25 years. Any questions? Any questions?
You about to leave?
I can.
I'd like to say that I appreciate Laura. She has worked with myself and some of the citizens of the county. She knows that this has been number 1 on my list for some time now out in Post 4. I know Todd has some in his area. There's having water problems, some of them don't have water. And so I appreciate what you're putting forth an effort to do. I don't think this effort has been put forth in several years. And she walked into this, and she come work with us, and she's been diligent about going forward with it. I want to tell her thank you. And I know she's got a tremendous amount of phone calls and people asking her to help them. And that's what she's trying to do at this time, and I appreciate it.
On a budget side, because you're really a separate business, a lot of people don't understand that you're a free enterprise entity. It seemed like it's going to be difficult with the different lengths of extension to recoup the money. Again, as a private business called the Water and Sewage Board. So does that kind of scare you?
Well, I would tell you these extensions don't pay for themselves. And that's one of the conversations that we've been having over the last couple of months. And it is a concern, and it makes it very, it will affect the timetable. We currently have $500,000 a year budgeted for water line extensions. And at that rate, we're talking about well over 20 years before we get water to even the people that are on our current petition list. That concerns me. We spent a lot of time talking about, should we charge an extension fee? And add an additional fee to this policy for people where we're doing this construction. And some of the communities that we looked at their policies did, some didn't. And so but in discussion with our Water and Sewer Advisory Board, and we felt like that this was the appropriate policy for Paulding. But it is going to be, it's not going to be an overnight process of extending water through these unserved areas at this rate. But through the next 5 years, we're living within our budgetary means.
Going back to the petitions that were put here as early as the 80s, this $500,000, I'm not sure how that's going to be divvied up. You said there'd be letters possibly sent out to those that have petitions the longest.
Yes.
And they would be given, of course, first priority, right?
Well, what we're doing is we're going to send the letters to inquire about their current interest and need. We want to find out, first of all, are they still committed? Because some of these, the property owners have even changed. We might have properties that have gone to another generation of family in some places. And so we're going to, and then we'll establish the priority based on those and any others that we receive. But we've got the letters drafted to start sending those out, and we'll be giving them about 60 days to respond.
Thank you.
Lori, will the age of the petition factor into the assessment of feasibility and the priority list?
Under this policy, no. It is based on benefit to the system and need.
Please pass along to the Water and Sewer Advisory Board how much we appreciate their work on this.
Yes.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you. Thank you.
New business item number 5, discuss action to adopt resolution 17-01, a resolution memorializing the Paulding County Board of Commissioners mission, vision, and value statement, which resolution reads, whereas as leaders of Paulding County, the Board of Commissioners envisions certain ideals and standards for itself and its work for its citizens. Whereas among these standards and goals, the following are their foremost importance. Unity is a key ingredient to success. Progress is achieved through teamwork. Embrace and drive change each week. Build open and honest relationships through communication. Do more with less and strive to conserve the taxpayers' dollars. Whereas, in order to remain cognizant of these ideals and values, the Paulding County Board of Commissioners is desirous of adopting a mission, vision, and value statement for itself. Now therefore be it resolved that the Paulding County Board of Commissioners approves and adopts the following mission, vision, and value statement as an embodiment of the ideals and standards by which it wishes to govern itself and the citizenry in the upcoming years. So quite simply, the mission statement is with unity and purpose, work to enhance citizens' quality of life by maximizing resources to make Paulding County a better place to live, work, and play. Vision statement, the Paulding County Board of Commissioners will operate as an effective and efficient governing body on behalf of all the citizens of Paulding County to make Paulding County the preeminent place in the Atlanta metropolitan area to live, work, and play. And thirdly, the values. Paulding County has HEART, HEART being the acronym for H for honesty, E for excellence, A for accountability, R for respect, and T for both transparency and teamwork. In the companies that I've worked for in military and the state, Eastern Airlines, the mission, vision, and value statement has been a meaning. Words are the way we communicate, and words hopefully have meaning. And so this was important to me, just like other things, to kind of get our feet well planted as we move off into 2017. And I appreciate Kathy Gill's comments. So that's this agenda item, any discussion.
I'll say one thing real quick. I appreciate Ms. Helms, Kathy, I appreciate your comments there. Certainly we should be soliciting citizen feedback. I'd just like to caution this board, should we choose to adopt this. I've worked, Dave, you mentioned you've worked in places where things like this were used, and I've had jobs that, there was one job in particular where when you walked in the main office, there was a receptionist there, and on the wall, lettered on the wall, was the mission and the values and the vision, and it was a very much, in that instance, it was very much a feel-good type of thing that upper management did to, I don't know, maybe there were good intentions, but it wasn't adhered to by management. And so should we take this and approve it, I would just challenge the four of you here with me to take it to heart and make serious. Dave, you and I spoke on the phone last week about this, and you mentioned if you wanted citizens, if we got out of line, I think was the term you used, that if we got out of line, that you expected citizens to call us out. I think that A, for accountability there, we need to be held accountable. But I would just caution this board to not let something like this be empty words on a wall, but to take it to heart and govern the way that we said we were going to govern. We all ran for this office, and when we were campaigning, we said how we thought things should work, and we should stick to that. And so I would just offer a word of caution there. And along those lines, Dave, you talked about citizens holding us accountable. I think we should even extend that to our employees that should be able to address issues of concern where sometimes if this board gets out of line with what our mission, we say our mission and our values is. And I'm sure, I'm not saying this because you haven't, I'm just, right, I'm not criticizing, but we all should have an open door policy for any issues, for any employees that come up, so that they can address concerns if they see this board straying from what we say we intend to do.
Thank you. Now, some of the individual departments have mission goals. Lori's shared hers and vision. So I agree, Ryan, it's something that should hold us accountable and hopefully make us better. Define who we are. So, new business item number 6, discuss the dismantling of the security checkpoint in the administrative building. Rachel Holt, thanks.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
This is a new topic to, I'm just short. This isn't a new topic to us. We've discussed this quite a few times. I guess it's just time that we actually bring it out and discuss it openly. I based this off of 2 questions. And my first question was, do we have the money for additional personnel? The second question was, are we willing to restrict people from carrying weapons in this building? If the answer to both of those questions were no, then basically I had no other choice but to request that we do remove the security checkpoint. Now keep in mind, that doesn't mean we're removing security, and I think that's what a lot of people are hearing. We're still here. I don't think we're going anywhere unless y'all have other plans. I've talked to the sheriff many times. We've always worked very well with them. We've got the courthouse personnel that'll help us if needed. We're here. We're not leaving the building. So I wanted to make sure that was very clear when we talk about removing the checkpoint. So before I start, many reasons, I want to first state that I believe it's always best to be proactive and to lead the way for others to follow. However, I also know that you have to have proper resources allocated to accomplish any task or duty. When that doesn't occur, it's impossible for that task or duty to actually be done accurately and other safety issues arise. And we'll discuss that a little bit more in closed session just due to the sensitivity of that information. I've provided you guys packets, and I'm not going to go word for word, but I just wanted to let people follow along with a couple of those areas. The first slide is in regards to the calls that have been reported to us and what other counties do in instances in their building layouts with tax commissioner's office and tax assessor's office. I need to quickly emphasize, I'm not picking on tax commissioner's office or tax assessor's office. These are just the only two departments that I've heard the most concern from in regards to the removal of the checkpoint, and I wanted to make sure that their concerns were taken seriously and that I related majority of this information to their specifics. So for example, if you look at this first slide, the calls that have been handled by the Marshal Bureau, we started the security checkpoint in July of 2014, and these stats go through August of 2016. We've had a total of 96 calls. 11 of those were in the tag office, 4 were false 911 hang-ups, 6 were med calls, 1 was a lost item. Tax assessor's office, we had 2 911 false hang-ups, and we had 2 upset persons. One thing I have to say about the upset persons, Mr. Stokes is very good about letting us know usually when these folks are coming in. It usually has to deal with the assessment time when they are coming in to appeal or talk about why their property those values. The rest were administration calls. They don't necessarily happen in this building. As you can see, they're the traffic accidents we were called on. We had some arrests with some drugs that we had, false alarms, cis motorists. We did have 6 unhappy citizens in the water department. That is something that's common. One of the other things were unhappy citizens at the security desk. We do get a lot of people that are extremely verbal and very upset, and because of that extreme amount, we always document that to make sure we have it for later on if somebody wanted to file something about it. The next slide, these are calls. I took it a little bit further. I called 911 and the sheriff's office on reports that they had, and I took their reports back to 2011 to 2014 when we came in, and 911 had approximately 80 calls, and you can see the calls that were listed that they had for this area, and this includes us and the courthouse. None of those calls are for the tax office or tax assessor's office. The next slide are the sheriff's office reports. During the time frame again from 2011 to 2014, there were 12 calls. The top 6, you'll see where it says tag office, those were the tag office calls. The ones that talk about stolen trailer, stolen vehicle, those are mainly when somebody comes in to get their tag or something or the vehicle comes back stolen. They're not necessarily the person who stole it. They're probably just as much a surprise to them as it is when they came in. They did have a harassing phone calls in June of 2011. The rest were not related to those tax assessors or tax commissioners. The next page, I went in and did a breakdown of what other counties do in regards to security checkpoints with the tax commissioner's office. Haralson County, Cherokee County, Douglas County, Polk County, and Carroll County. None of them have their tax commissioner behind security. Cobb County, they're a little bit different situation. They have several offices. Their main office is in the courthouse, which by law they're required to have security checkpoint. So they are behind that. The outlet stations that they do not have security. Bartow County does have their tax commissioner behind security, and again, it's in the courthouse, and they said that their main reason for that was that they're just so small that they're fortunate to have all of their government in one building. On the next page, I went in to do a breakdown for a deputy marshal. To effectively run the checkpoint, you have to have 4 officers, and that is what the equipment requires, and then plus you have to have backup. Officers need lunches, they still need bathroom breaks, they still take time off, have family emergencies, such as that. This is the breakdown. I need to explain salary and benefits before everybody's like, wow, they get paid great. We don't. And Sheriff can back me on this one. We actually, our pay is $36,210. We're very fortunate in Paulding County that we have the benefits that we have, which are that extra amount. The extra benefits, of course, life insurance, disability, FICA, Medicare, workers' comp, county pension, ballot, that kind of thing. And then plus insurance is anywhere from $8,000 to $2,000 depending on the plan you choose and if you have family and that kind of thing. Most of ours have the family plan. I can say, and I'm sure the sheriff can back me, we can get food stamps on our family of 4 with our base salary. So don't take that as that's what we make. So when you take that plus our benefits, uniforms and duty gear is about $1,300, a fully equipped vehicle about $52,000, and the cost of the deputy marshal while in basic mandates about $6,700. Basic mandate, we don't pay for it, but we have to pay them a salary while they're in it. And so in a bad way, they're not any good to us while they're in mandate learning because they're not helping us any. So basically total for deputy marshal is $125,000. If you times that times 4, we're at like $500,000 for what security basically should be costing down there. On the next page, oops, sorry, let me go to the next page. The next page is going to be the Marshall Charter, and if you read our charter, it says all throughout it how we enforce county ordinances, and then of course there's the famous catch-all line at the end that says and any other duties that are told. We all have that in our SOPs. We know how that one works. So I'm sure that's why we kind of have everything else we do have, but I'm pretty sure I made it clear to everyone to know that as long as I'm leading the Marshal Bureau, we will take on and do whatever it is we're asked to do. We've done that time and time again with the departments having given to us, and there have been issues with them, and we've straightened them out. Not a problem. We will do whatever it takes. Over time, that these extra departments and responsibilities have put a strain on us, and basically we can't be as effective as what I feel like we need to be. So when we're talking about security, it's just important to know that we need to be effective, or there's no point in it. One of the other things, the amount of weapons we had come through. In 2014, when we first started, the Sheriff's Office used to have a security checkpoint down, I believe, in 2008. When that went away, there was no security. We came about in 2014. We were taking about 550 weapons on average a month when we first started. Not taking, excuse me, turning away. As of now, we take about 130, which tells you people are accustomed to coming in here and not bringing their weapons because they don't want to go back to the car. But what that also tells you, between 2008 and 2014, folks have been carrying them in here the whole time. And it may have even been more than that. Some people may have seen we're starting a security checkpoint and started not bringing them in right away. So during that time frame of 08 to 14, there were tons of weapons, and you can see that by our first month of security checkpoint being 550. I give all this history and information because we're in a situation where I really need big decisions to be made. We either want the Marshal Bureau to follow our original charter, which is enforcing the county ordinances, or we want the ordinances enforced along with the additional things added over the years. If that's the case, no problem, I just need the resources to do it. And saying this, it's also my responsibility to make sure that taxpayer money is being spent appropriately. You can see how much it costs to staff the security checkpoint, to staff appropriately, and also see the stats that really don't show the amount for security. Again, I emphasize there's no amount of money or price you can put on security, but I feel you'll better understand my overall outlook, especially when I can describe in detail some of the security concerns. It's also important to remember the reason for a security checkpoint came about because of the law changing, and that would allow folks to carry their guns in the building. And then I've already told you the amounts that were on there, or for the weapons that would come in. I can honestly say I have never, ever heard a citizen come in and say, I'm so glad y'all are here, and I have to go through security to pay my tax. I've never heard it. I wish I could say that to make it a little bit better, but it's just something they're very dissatisfied with, and then we get the brunt of it down there. I say we, I gotta give it to my guys, because they're the ones that sit down there. Also because of security and the lack of staffing, our ordinance has suffered a bit. I know some of you have gotten calls on that. We have 2 officers on the road, and that's on a good day. Most of the time, I'm having to pull those officers from the road in order to run security because we don't have enough staffing downstairs. If this goes through and the checkpoint is removed, we are changing up a lot. We are going to 2 shifts, and we'll basically kind of be on the same rotation of the sheriff's office. We'll be here 7 days a week, and we'll be here from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And that will allow us right now, and everybody knows it, so putting us out there isn't going to make a difference. Well, the marshals aren't here on the weekends, so we'll just go ahead and park on the road, or we'll just go ahead and do this anyways because they're not here and they won't enforce it. Well, this will allow us to be there. We can do that and enforce those things. One thing I have to do definitely is give kudos to the citizens of Paulding County. I've never seen a group of folks show their support so much for public safety. There's many times we go to sit down to eat and we get up to pay and it's already been paid for by somebody. We just, as far as the citizens go, controversy arises, they run out to our backing. They've just always been great. With that said, I have no doubt that if there was a situation in this building where there was like an armed person, that there's a lot of these citizens that I would want to be carrying with us. They're going to back us. It's important to know that there's only so many of us, and the community has proven how they are with us in that regard. To end on a positive note, I don't want anyone to think the security idea was a waste. It absolutely was not. It actually brought about a lot of needed precautions that were never in place. And one of those examples are the security plans for each department. I have to give huge kudos to Bill Watson and James Stokes. They already had security plans before this was something we ever implemented, so they were ready to go. But it got all the other departments along those lines also. We have door placards that will now help law enforcement and fire when they're in a building trying to clear. And we also have, I call it the what to do flip charts for employees that's being worked on, and that's big kudos to Frank Baker for getting that going. So nothing was a bad part about it. That's just a very positive note that we needed to have, and I know we'll discuss it a little bit more later, but if you guys have any questions for me,
I have a question. What is proposed for answering concerns in the tax commissioner's office? Bill called me, and I know there was discussion about a deputy up there. There was discussion about building up a wall and putting a window there. There was a discussion about panic buttons. Do we have a final proposal or suggestion, or is Bill, I don't know if Bill's here. I don't know if he's in the room, but is there any plans for addressing the concerns there in the tax offices?
I know the talk that you said, talk about having somebody up there, and I actually have a position that was put in my budget that was surprised. But that budget, or that position, I've spoken with the sheriff that we would give that to his staff for them to staff somebody up there like they've been done previously. There was talk about putting the windows up, which I think was a great idea. We have that at animal control, and it helps quite a bit. I'm not sure what the final outcome was on the windows and where we're going with that. I think some of that proposal was put the windows up and not have the officer sit up there, the deputy sit up there. But regardless, it still boils down to the same thing. When 911 is called, which is the best way to do it, you call 911, we all have radios. It goes out over our radio that something going on. We're in the building, we're going. The sheriff has been very nice by saying, you know, hey, you know me, and if you need anything, and that call goes out, someone from the courthouse will come over really quick and take care of things. So nothing's changing as far as being able to call 911. The only thing that would be changing is now most departments will dial the security desk downstairs for somebody to come. And then that would just be eliminated because there wouldn't be anybody down there. It's just call 911. And then we're actually gonna hear it faster.
Ron, on the situation of protective glass, I was in Mayor Boykin Austin's office in the city hall there last week, and they have bulletproof glass that it's got just one small opening in the bottom, and it goes almost to the ceiling. It would be impossible to. And I can't remember exactly how animal control is.
Ours
if
goes
it's that
all the way
robust or not, but
Yeah, ours will go all the way to animal control, and we've got the thing tossed around, you can slide papers under it. It's not bulletproof, but, I mean, it keeps, our problem was we had too many animals coming up on the counter to be handed over, and it would take off, so we stopped that.
Dog proof.
Yeah, it's dog proof.
Just one question for the sheriff. Sheriff, does transferring that position to your department satisfy any concerns that you might have with covering, should the tax commissioner need that?
That's what I was talking to Dave about earlier. I don't have a problem at all putting a deputy up there to address safety concerns on the top floor. The only thing is I need money to fund the position. I don't have the positions to put somebody there now. The position that was there, we needed more in the courthouse. They went back to the courthouse, and it was easy to do for us.
Okay.
Short version, security is intrusive and expensive. I mean, that's the bottom line. The public don't like it. And you won't like it unless you're in there when it goes bad. And I tried, we had a meeting about it. In our line of work, especially in the security business, our favorite quote is 2 is 1, 1 is 9. So if you see 2 of us sitting there, it's really 1. And a lot of the public don't understand it, and I got some complaints, well, there's 4 people sitting over at the courthouse checking people in. Well, there's a lot of people comes in and out of both these buildings every day. But if there's an issue that arises, or there's some kind of fight, and you got 2 deputies dealing with it, and there's another problem happens, and you got 2 deputies dealing with it, well, who's watching the courthouse? Or who's watching this building or any house? So, we have to work by 2 is 1 and 1 is 9.
Okay, thank you. Leanne, you mentioned the schedule changes. It's, and the booklet here that you sent over mentions some improvements in morale. Is your team on board with those scheduling changes?
They are beyond excited, which I don't understand because it's working weekends, but they're very excited. I guess they'll get time off during the week to handle business, to be with kids and that kind of thing. But they're very excited and ready to go whenever.
And then I guess I'll just say 2 last things. As a citizen, I had some pretty specific thoughts about that security checkpoint when the gun legislation changed, and I wasn't a fan of it then because I do believe that responsible citizens carrying weapons can help save lives. The second thing I want to say is that I've looked through this, and I think that what you've presented is a very, it's out of the box thinking to solve a lot of different problems that you have. And I think you're to be commended for that. I know you and your team do a great job here in this building and around the county. But I don't know that we could ever fully staff public safety. There's always going to be another need somewhere. And you as well as the other public safety groups in the county have done a good job working within the restrictions that we have. But as I read through this, I looked, and when you can solve manpower problems and increase morale and cut costs all at the same time, it's a good thing. And so I appreciate you bringing creative thinking to the table like that.
But my lieutenant had told me, that kind of stuck with me, he said, we're keeping honest people honest. And that kind of stuck with me because I do feel that is exactly what we're doing in some of these situations. Thank you.
Let me say how much I appreciate Bill Watson taking a stand for his people. We've been in several meetings, as you've heard, and he is always out front that his people are the most important. And so, I know Bill's not in here, but I'll thank him personally later. I have already, but thank you, Ian.
I'd like to just say real quick that I know this is the first meeting of the year, but this topic was not just talked about last week.
Right.
This topic has been going on for a long time. For the last year, we have talked about this topic. Okay?
So I'm very happy to be up here tonight.
I understand.
What are we talking about an effective date with doing something like this?
You'd better answer that because I thought we'd have to wait till Gary brought somebody on, but he had an alternative.
Okay.
I don't think you want my answer. But I'd be happy to give one. It's, let's see, 11:30? We're done at
I couldn't get a word in here. I was listening to your numbers. We came in this building in no way. The 6 years, we had no security, is that correct?
Correct. Well, when I say security, no
I know,
checkpoint, yeah.
I know. We did not
Sir.
have the metal detectors and things like that. And during that time, we didn't have any problems other than normal day occurrences that might happen when somebody
Yeah, not that I could find reported, and I went back to 2011, so, I mean, yes, there's probably a chance there could be something from '08 to 2011, but,
So it was put in place basically because the law was passed that we could carry guns inside the building, and there was a concern back then that we really not have.
correct.
Well, to answer Ron's question, would it be when we had Bill's, Watson's tax commission office covered by the sheriff's office?
Brother, you're asking me a question I'm going to answer to, because until you do away with it, there's no need for us to be there. So I will need time to hire and staff the position before you just walk off and leave the building like that. I don't have any extra positions floating around that I can just send somebody over here. The courthouse has got so much court going on over there, everybody over there is running as hard as they can go, there's just nobody to see it. So I would need the time to hire and get somebody in there. If this is what you decide to do, like I said, you know, it's expensive either way you go about it. The thing that, and I told you, they changed the law where everybody's going to be allowed to go in any building, any government building, carrying a firearm. And a firearm means long gun or a pistol. So, you know, I told y'all that there's some hotly contested items that's going on in this room. You know, do you want to deal with these people standing at this lectern while they're wearing a gun? That was a choice that was made. That's why they put security down there so that they wouldn't come here and carry guns. The same thing when people come to pay their taxes and buy tags and fight about their property values. You know, you're allowing people to come in here that's armed, and it's your decision. I have some pretty tough decisions to make, and I'm kind of glad this is not one of them I got to do. But it's all, if you make the right decision and nothing happens, you'll be okay. If you make this decision and something goes wrong, you're going to be able to carry it. So it's not nothing that you just take lightly. And I'm sorry to say that, but it's just, and I feel that in my heart, and I think that you need to know up front, it's not as simple as just waving your hand and saying, let's take it away. Because if something goes wrong, you're going to have a lot of families looking at y'all in the face, and it's not easy to do. I've been there and done it. It's no fun. So I know I can help you.
Well, I would like to say this, Gary, bring up some good points. There has been a lot of heated discussion in this room over the last 3 years. A lot of heated discussions. And there's been times where during those discussions, I've been in the middle of it. But I will tell you this. There was a time where I was confronted out in the parking lot by somebody. There a lot of people thought, well, how did you feel safe? How did you feel? You know, you were threatened, you were this, you were that. The bottom line is this. I don't live my life in fear, period. But I will tell you this, I've never felt like even the folks on the other side of an issue that's been heated in this room or out in the parking lot or anywhere else in the county, when it comes down to it, I have seen in Paulding County that people are people and people are good people. And no matter what happens, we can be on the opposite sides of an issue. But when it comes down to it, we join together and do what we need to do that's right. And I've never felt sitting here or sitting inside this building or even out in the parking lot when somebody said you shouldn't have been confronted like that. I personally have really never felt threatened. And I understand you have a different job as a sheriff.
I agree with you on the most part. We're not dealing with what me and you grew up with. We're not dealing with old Paulding County who, I mean, me and you go around back getting a fist fight, and we go back and we go eat lunch and go on with it.
That's right.
The people we're dealing with now is not that way, you know. I stand here for all day and talk about it. We have people here with all kind of different capacities in their mind that's showing up and doing things that's unheard of. I mean, we had police officers killed even in the state of Georgia last year, and most of them were senseless. Sitting in your car doing nothing but writing a report, and somebody comes up and whacks them, and it's going on every day. So, you know, the public's not getting any nicer to us, and it's not going to get any safer. So, you know, my hat's off to you.
One of the things too, and I completely agree with what he's saying, but my outlook is we are the Marshal Bureau. You know, our charter says one thing. Over the years, I feel very flattered and privileged that I've been given all these other departments which have been problems that needed fixed and taken care of. And we've done that, but we've also never gotten the resources for those. So when something this big is tacked on, the Marshal Bureau is no longer county ordinance, because right now what our job is security. I can come in today and say, hey guys, you know what, there's ice outside, or it's Christmas and we don't need to be writing tickets for litter or tall grass, so let's just stay in here today. I can't do that with security. So my entire focus of my department has changed to security first. And so I'll do whatever it is you guys want. You know, I've told y'all that a million times. I just have got to have the resources and know which way to go. And if we can't do those things, like my 2 opening questions, then we don't have it to effectively do it. I'm no longer the Marshal Bureau that does ordinances.
I believe if we pass this, we need to come up with a time frame that Gary feels comfortable with, that he can get somebody trained and up there. If we want to pass this, I do think that needs to be stipulated in what we vote on.
I'll agree with you wholeheartedly. We go year to year with vacancies at our office. Don't come back again to money. You know, we need our guys' pays increased so that we can fill positions that's already free. You know, I've got it's not just, it won't be just here, it's everywhere. You know, I've got vacancies at the courthouse, I got vacancies at jail, I got vacancies on patrol. You can see CID, they're everywhere. And the reason is we can't do anything but hire young folks and send them to school and train them. And as soon as we get them trained, they're going to these other departments to, I won't even call their names, but in the metro area, you know, they're getting $10,000, $12,000 more a year, and it's hard for me to look at a young guy who's married with a family telling him $12,000 a year won't make a difference in his life, because it will. That's something that, I know we've had several discussions, and me and Todd's talked a lot about the salary study that's come out. I'm really looking forward to getting back and hoping that it helps us with all these issues, and y'all will take it very seriously and help us address what's going on and be able to fill positions we got. I would appreciate that, and so would my guys. I mean, some of my folks are living on that, and it's hard to do, it's hard to watch it. You know, we need y'all's help to help that. And I know I got elected the sheriff at the same time that everything dropped. You know, all I've heard since I've been here was cut, cut, cut. You know, I'm thankful that the economy seems to be turning around, and I'm hoping that it gets better. I'd really like to see my guys quit chewing on the bone and be able to get a bite of meat every once in a while, if that makes sense.
Well, let me use that as an opportunity to say something about something that's very important to all of us, because I've talked to post commissioners and spent a reasonable amount of time with them over the last few months. We've got Robert Reynolds in here, and he's our Director of Economic Development, and he's got a wealth of experience and knowledge and vision. And I think we've got citizens in here that are progressive and people that will want to locate in Paulding County are going to see a unified board and unified people moving forward. Again, not that we always agree, but and to balance that out where we can have extra dollars to give to these much needed salary increases and other problems. I just want to see us move forward very strong with economic development.
And that being said, Gary, what is a time frame you feel would be comfortable to have someone hired, trained?
Very hard question to answer. Because until we open a position, we don't know who's going to apply for it. You know, I'd like to say we open a position, we're going to get flooded with applications. We've been taking applications all year, we're just not flooded with them. So I don't know when I can tell you I can hire somebody. That's what I asked. If you vacate the thing downstairs, I asked if you would leave one of the marshals there until I can get somebody hired in replacement. I'll do it as soon as possible. As soon as I can get somebody hired in there, I will turn it loose. And I don't mind doing it, but I know we've had several talks with Bill, and I don't know whether he's decided that he wants to put a deputy out there, or he wants to put, you know, glass that you pass through glass. I don't know what he wants to do. I haven't heard the answer. We had a meeting last week, and then of course the snowstorm come in. We haven't done anything but that, so probably a question we need to ask him to answer before we say, yes, this is what we're going to do, because I don't know what his choices are.
And that brings up another thing. I really, really do love Gary. But if glass is going up, then I'm not giving up a position.
I have no issue with it either. But that's kind of something to build it, you know, y'all are going to need to answer with him. I don't know what he's wanting to do. I understand that most people comes in there, they're not real happy about having to pay taxes. I understand both sides of it.
Thank you both.
Go ahead, Crow.
Under new business, we have consent agenda item number 3 that has moved forward, so we'll discuss that now and approve the budget amendment to increase economic development funding in the amount of $135,921 to a total funding amount of $265,921.
Since I asked that to be moved over, I guess I'll start the discussion on that. This is a great thing. I really wanted to move it over just so we could discuss it, so everybody would understand what's going on. We have cut economic development's budget over the last couple of years, so they haven't received the money they have. There's some reasons for that. However, now we have an opportunity in this sewer line for Sunnyland. I actually started to help them work on it before I even got in office, and I think the grant was obtained right after I got in office. So we've had it, I don't know, for 2 years. Is that right, Ted? Almost 2 years?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Almost 2 years. Just been sitting there. We finally were able to take bids. So much time's passed, it was a little bit more expensive than it would have been if we'd done it 2 years ago. The correct way to handle this is, of course, is to go ahead and fund it through economic development, let Robert handle that, let him put together the whole system, and we kind of stay out of it, and that's towards economic development. It's very important. I think sewer is one of the most important things we can have in this county to attract businesses. As a matter of fact, and Robert knows this, there's 2 businesses in Sunnyland that we will lose if we don't get the sewer system put in. And quickly, they need it. There's one business in particular that has 3 septic tanks, and he's having to pump those 3 septic tanks every 3 months. And that's not a good situation. We're asking businesses to look at us as a county, and we don't even have the proper infrastructure for them. So this is really a step in the right direction. I think once the sewer's in, I think more companies will actually even tie in. It gives something for Robert to help sell when he's out there trying to attract companies to Albany County. And we have it in Hiram now too, which is a good thing, downtown Hiram. And we're starting to see people go ahead and hook up with downtown Hiram. I've had people ask me why is there only 1 restaurant downtown Hiram? Well, before downtown Hiram was on 2 septic tanks for the whole downtown. The septic system would only allow 1 restaurant, right? That's correct. But now we have a system down there, and we're attracting more, and so this is what we need to do. This is a step in the right direction. I'm excited.
So to bring to light more, or any more definitive numbers, Tabitha and Lauren, you all want to say anything else?
Not unless you need us to. This is specifically to complete this project. I mean, it's the additional funding needed. The bid award was at $233,000. It's on the agenda today, and we're asking for $263,000. That's a rock contingency of $30,000. If that's not used, it won't be included. And the same thing for this economic development, as I understand, is basically to complete funding for the project.
And the grant portion was a matching grant. Can you comment on that?
Yes, sir. It was $127,574 with 50% match. So federal portion was $63,787, and the county portion is $63,787, of which economic development had agreed to pay when they applied the grant.
Correct. Okay. Any questions, board? Good. Very well. Before we go into executive session, which we do have a requirement for, I did not introduce my beautiful wife. In the back room, they're about Beverly Cochran from Angel Home. She probably won't be here at very many of the meetings, but I'm certainly glad to have her support on this, my first meeting as chair. So the executive session is about real estate, to review and discuss documents related to Official Code of Georgia annotated 15-18-72, parentheses 25, and security plans. Do I hear a motion? Let's see if I've finished. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
Do you want to let the citizen wish you to speak though before?
She's at a temperature of 102 degrees.
Oh, we don't.
And I forgot to tell you that.
Yeah, she's not here.
Okay.
Make a motion to go in executive session as read.
Here, second.
Second.
Motion and second to go to executive session. We're adjourned to executive session. I'd like to call the meeting, the Board of Commissioners meeting back in session. And there was no official action taken. The minutes are on record. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. We will start back in 8 minutes.
We're gonna take a break and then come back, we swear.